Nikola Tesla is one of the greatest scientific minds of all time.
Without Tesla's invention of alternating current technology, it would be a much darker and quieter world.
Long before Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or wireless charging, Nikola Tesla tried to build something far bolder, a tower that could send electricity and information through the Earth itself.
Tesla went out to Colorado Springs to see if he could send electricity miles, which is a tremendous achievement. But he had a huge tower, and there was 200 feet to the top.
His Wardenclyffe Tower was supposed to make power limitless, without wires, and free.
Did Nikola Tesla find the secret to unlimited energy? And is there a plot to hide his findings?
The project collapsed before the world ever learned whether it worked. But over a century later, modern engineers tried to rebuild Tesla's impossible machine.
Tesla would describe the process of invention as basically he would build a model in his mind and then run simulations.
And what happened when they switched it on shocked even the people who believed in it most. A dream of light. Back in 1901, Tesla built something so strange that it baffles scientists to this day. At first glance, it just seemed like a strange-looking tower towering over the skies of Long Island. But in reality, this metallic structure represented an innovation so great that if it were to come to fruition, the whole world would have changed. But before I reveal the true purpose of this tower and why this innovation was killed in its infancy, you must first understand the genius behind it, Nikola Tesla. In 1884, he landed on American shores, seeking to expand his scientific and technological horizons in the New World, where great minds were emerging, seeking to push the boundaries of what was possible at the time. And of these great minds, Tesla chose to work under Thomas Edison, one of the most influential inventors of modern times. They worked together for a short while, but the two quickly separated because of differing views and some problems over compensation. That's when Tesla headed out on his own. His aim was simple: bring his own ideas to life. Create things that will astound the world and change technology forever. Tesla was a madman and a scientist mixed into one. He thought of things that others would pass off as impossible. And most importantly, he had the genius to bring those ideas to life. Throughout his life, Tesla made a lot of discoveries and inventions that served humanity as a whole. One of his greatest contributions caused the widespread adoption of AC current during the infancy of electrical grids. While Thomas Edison was busy promoting DC current, Tesla created the AC induction motor in 1887. This invention proved that AC was a more efficient option compared to Edison's DC current for long-distance transmission. He also helped with the creation of the modern electrical grid through his inventions and theories. In 1895, Tesla won the Niagara Falls Power Project, which was decided to run on AC current rather than DC. A huge achievement that shaped history and technology as we know it. But Tesla's contributions towards making AC current, the more standardized and widely used option for electricity production and transmission, were only one part of the equation. Tesla also pioneered the use of wireless communication in its early stages. He built some of the world's first radio-controlled devices, including the famous teleautomaton radio-controlled boat. Additionally, he created the Tesla coil, a device that became the basis of his work on high voltages and resonance oscillation. All these discoveries were the building blocks for Tesla's next great idea, the atmospheric and earth conduction theories. What Tesla was proposing with these theories seems ridiculous even by today's standards, but the very forefront of technological advancements always tends to seem a bit out there until they are achieved, and once they become the norm, no one questions them. So what was Tesla proposing with the atmospheric and earth conduction theories? Well, essentially, Tesla wanted to use the Earth itself to transfer energy from one place to another. He also proposed that the high-altitude atmosphere could be used as a natural waveguide for energy transfer. Now it is important to understand that the system he wanted to create would be different from Marconi's electromagnetic radiation model, which is the basis of the modern electromagnetic model we use today for most of our wireless communication needs. Here is the key difference. Marconi's electromagnetic radiation model sent out radiation into space, which could then be picked up by specialized devices. Tesla wanted to instead create waves inside the Earth itself that could be used for all kinds of purposes. Energy transfer done this way would be instantaneous, nearly limitless in range around the globe, and most importantly, it would be very cheap. Soon after he thought of this new theory, Tesla started to merge all his inventions and discoveries to give birth to a new idea. An idea that sought to radically change how modern communication worked on a global scale. He wanted to build a worldwide wireless system. Tesla envisioned a global communication network that worked without a single wire. Messages, telephone signals, and even images would be transferred wirelessly. It was a radical proposal for the time, and it still is today. Why? Well, as I mentioned earlier, most of the wireless communication we have today is transferred through space. Tesla wanted to build a wireless system to work using the Earth as the main transfer medium, something we haven't been able to achieve even with modern technology. But if anyone could do it, it would have been Tesla. For him, this idea changed everything. He fixated on it, turning all his attention and focus towards achieving it. And soon enough, he decided to put this theory to the test with the famous Colorado Springs experiments. Beginning in 1899, the Colorado Springs experiments were a crucial precursor to the Wardenclyffe Tower. You see, the ambition Tesla had developed to create a worldwide wireless system was amplified tenfold with this project. Eager to create a proof of concept for his big reveal, Tesla built a massive experimentation station in Colorado Springs. The location he selected was not random. It was carefully picked to facilitate his work. The Colorado Springs facility was located at a high altitude. This made it much easier to create electrical discharge experiments due to the reduced air pressure. At the same time, Tesla had picked a place where lightning storms were very common. This gave him a unique opportunity to observe and study naturally occurring electrical phenomena. The added benefit was that Tesla had been offered free electricity for his experiments in the facility by the local power company. After all, Tesla's reputation had increased a lot since he landed on the American shores. Now, he had a lot of people ready to support his technological advancements. With the giant complex completed and a source of electricity ready, Tesla began his work to prove that worldwide wireless systems were a viable technology. Here, he built the largest Tesla coil he had ever built, and nicknamed it the magnifying transmitter. This thing was very power-hungry, but in exchange, it was capable of producing tens of thousands of watts of electrical discharges. For a year, Tesla used this facility to conduct experiments with electricity. What happened behind those closed doors, no one is entirely certain. What we do know is the strange phenomenon that began occurring around the facility around the time when Tesla was conducting these experiments. And some of this stuff will blow your mind. According to the locals, as they would be walking the streets near the tower, electricity would jump from their feet and the ground. Water taps were causing a similar phenomenon when touched. At the same time, electric bulbs about 100 feet around the lab would glow even if they were turned off. There were even incidents where horses bolted when they literally got shocked out of nowhere from their metal shoes. The strangest phenomenon of all was the butterflies. Locals reported that they would see the butterflies sort of electrified with halos of plasma around their wings. Sounds straight out of a horror movie. But all these things make one thing clear. Tesla was experimenting with some very high-powered electrical discharges in his lab, which were causing these phenomena. And what were the results? By the time Tesla left the Colorado Springs facility in 1900, he had made a lot of interesting observations. He was able to demonstrate that lightning could be transferred using resonant induction more than 100 feet away wirelessly. He was also able to create artificial lightning that was nearly 130 feet long. But his most interesting observations were the Earth's resonance frequencies. According to Tesla, he had discovered these frequencies during his experimentations. And to him, these essentially proved that the Earth acted as a giant electrical sphere resonating with energy, meaning there was a way to transfer energy through it if the frequencies were just right. This made it clear to Tesla that wireless energy transfer across Earth was possible in theory at least. The system of global communication and transmission he had dreamed of could become a reality. But before he could convince the world of his discovery, he would need to show more solid proof. Something that would make it clear that the radical idea he was proposing was no delusion, but the next major technological innovation that would change the world. And to do that, he decided to create a prototype, the same prototype that would later come to be known as the Wardenclyffe Tower. The Wardenclyffe Tower was a project far more ambitious than any other Tesla had undertaken in his life. Built on Long Island, it was going to be a giant tower that Tesla was going to use to transmit messages across the Atlantic Ocean using the Earth as the conductor. If he could do that, it would prove that the wireless worldwide system he was proposing was not just possible, but also practical. Just imagine a new method of communication that would work without needing massive infrastructure like telephone lines and an electrical grid. The communication would be instantaneous and wouldn't be bound by geography in any sense. The entire world is connected by an array of similar towers, but to build this prototype, Tesla needed money. And while he was a successful scientist, he was certainly no businessman. But that wasn't much of a problem. The idea itself was enough to attract investors. Chief among them was J.P. Morgan, an American financier and investment banker who essentially dominated Wall Street. J.P. Morgan invested $150,000 into Tesla's ambition. This was no small sum for sure. But Morgan knew that if the prototype proved successful, then he would essentially hold the keys to global communication in his hand. It would certainly get him a huge return on his profits. Now, keep in mind, to J.P. Morgan, this was just going to be a communication facility strictly operating as an experiment in global communication. Nothing more. But to Tesla, that secretly wasn't the case. He wanted to go even farther, but failed to tell that to his key investor. Or perhaps he refused to. We will find out soon why. Meanwhile, with the funds secured, Tesla purchased a 200-acre plot in Shoreham, Long Island. The site was selected for a couple of reasons. It was close to New York, which was and still is America's financial center. So, if the experiment was successful, it would be the perfect place to sell its services for global communication. The place also had easy access to transatlantic communication lines that crisscross the globe and connect continents. Through these, Tesla would be able to send and receive information quickly for his experiments. Another major factor was that this spot on Long Island was ideal for grounding a massive electrical system. To make his prototype work, Tesla required access to the Earth's conductive layers, which would be easier to drill into from this property, as it wasn't marshy or on top of an aquifer. Next, the work on the tower itself began. The design was made by Stanford White, a very famous architect of his time. The tower's main structure was made of wood, since it is a non-conductive material. At its top was a copper dome, and extending downwards, hundreds of feet into the Earth were iron pipes that would tap into the Earth's conductive layer. So how was this tower going to work? Well, essentially, the system that Tesla had come up with during his experimentation in the Colorado Springs was quite simple. He would use the tower as essentially a giant Tesla coil.
Tesla developed a device in 1891 which could produce bolts of high-voltage electricity, known as the Tesla coil.
Then, the tower would inject electricity into the Earth at just the right frequency so that it could harness the Earth's own electric charge. Then, the Wardenclyffe Tower's unique frequency would cause the Earth's electric charge to resonate with it. The Earth's charge would amplify into a sort of waves that Tesla called standing waves. These waves could then be tapped into anywhere on the Earth. By modifying the electrical charge within the Earth in this manner, Tesla would be able to create an instantaneous and global signal that could easily be accessed. If he could achieve this, Tesla would have created an efficient and quick method of communication that had virtually no limitations. Cities around the globe and even ships in the oceans could be communicated with quite easily. But as Tesla was busy working on this, something else was happening that put his project in jeopardy. Marconi was making huge advancements in wireless communication as well. He was able to transmit radio signals over ranges previously thought impossible. Suddenly, Tesla's new invention was about to be overshadowed, and the inventor was smart enough to see that. So he decided to incorporate another thing into the prototype, which he had been working on. Now, he didn't just want to transmit signals across the globe using the Earth as a conductor. He also wanted to transmit electricity, and he wanted to do it wirelessly. Tesla knew from his experiments in Colorado Springs that he could do it. He had been working on transferring electricity wirelessly quite extensively in the past, And now he believed he could incorporate this feature into the Wardenclyffe Tower to boost its popularity and keep the public interest going. The concept was similar to the basic theory he began with when building the Wardenclyffe Tower.
And therefore he could create a distribution system for electricity that didn't require poles and wires.
The tower will be used to transmit an electric charge into the Earth, which would then return through the atmosphere back to the tower. This would essentially create an electric current anywhere on the globe that any of his patented devices could tap into. And as an added benefit, Tesla claimed that the electricity would charge the atmosphere, causing it to glow as it passed through it on its return journey. This, Tesla believed, would help light up the cities at night. This all may sound impossible today, but back then, when electricity was still seen as something mysterious, almost magical, people believed it when one of the greatest minds of the time claimed it was possible. Soon enough, Tesla was making claims to the public that his prototype would be able to send electricity anywhere in the world without needing a single wire. But that's where he ran into a problem. His investor, J.P. Morgan, believed this was not part of the deal. To him, if everyone could get free electricity through Tesla's new invention, which he was funding, how would he make money? How could he charge people for free electricity?
In 1901, Nikola Tesla secured a transformative investment from financier J.P. Morgan to build Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island.
Soon enough, J.P. Morgan cut all the funding for the project. Tesla tried to mortgage the property and made every effort to keep his dream alive. But with no money, drowning in debt, and with no success in the experiments he was running until now, Tesla went through a nervous breakdown. Not long after that, the Wardenclyffe Tower was abandoned, never to go into operation again. But curiously, that doesn't mean the project was over. Tesla may have failed to prove that his proposed method works. But he had still left behind the idea, the theory that Earth's electrical charges and the atmosphere's upper layers can be used to conduct electricity and signals instantaneously around the globe is an enticing one, and it has kept on fascinating the generations that have come after, especially the ones that find inspiration in Tesla's unstoppable pursuit of technological advancements. For those people, it has been a long-held dream to recreate the Wardenclyffe Tower in the modern world and prove once and for all whether Tesla's theory was based in reality or just a very expensive mistake by the genius scientist. Plans for recreation. Recreating the Wardenclyffe Tower is the most obvious way of proving Tesla's theory and its global implications.
When he built this Wardenclyffe Tower, it tapped into the energy from the Earth and the energy in the atmosphere.
And in 2014, two brothers tried to do just that. Russian physicists Leonid and Sergei Plekhanov wanted to not just recreate Tesla's tower, but also improve upon it. And instead of focusing on the communication aspect of it, which has already been solved conveniently by cell phones, they wanted to focus solely on the wireless electricity transfer part of the theory. But doing that is way more difficult. You see, the main problem with the Wardenclyffe Tower was that there wasn't a viable way to source enough energy that it could meet the needs of everyone on Earth. Back in the 1900s, when the use of electricity was still new, Tesla found that to be a difficult task to accomplish. And today, electricity consumption is thousands of times higher than back then. Well, the brothers had the answer in the desert. According to experts, a gigantic solar farm covering 1.2% of the Sahara Desert in Africa would be enough to meet the global electricity needs today. And while that is something we can build, the problem comes in when you look at distribution. Moving the energy from this farm to every population center on Earth would be impossible. After a certain distance, it would no longer be possible to transfer the energy since all of it would be lost on the way. And that's where the Wardenclyffe Tower concept comes into play. The Russian scientists proposed that if Tesla's invention could be proven to work, we could harness the Earth's own electrical charges and the atmosphere to move this electricity out of the proposed farm in the Sahara Desert wirelessly. No need for a giant network of electricity lines. Every single device on Earth could be powered this way. An ambitious idea, no doubt. But that's pretty much where the good news ended. Leonid and Sergei Plekhanov encountered the same problem that Tesla did. They wanted to raise $800,000 to build the prototype tower that would be needed to prove that Tesla's energy transfer concept worked. But none of the investors were interested. After all, there is no money to be made here. The electricity will be renewable in the proposed project, so it wouldn't cost much to produce. And since everyone would get access to free electricity without distinction, the investors knew, just like J.P. Morgan back then knew, that they could not feasibly monetize the whole system. The brothers were able to raise $40,000 via crowdfunding from everyday people who wanted to see the project come to fruition. But that was pretty much it. And just like that, the proposed project was canceled, and no news has come of it since. It seems anyone who seeks to make anything like the Wardenclyffe Tower always runs into money troubles. Tesla did, and so did these Russian scientists. And this next attempt also met a similar fate. Texas Tesla Tower. Not many people know it, but Texas too had its own Wardenclyffe Tower. Made by the company Viziv Technologies, this tower stands 200 feet tall with a yellowish color and a dome at the top quite similar to that of the Wardenclyffe Tower. But instead of wood, this tower is made of pultruded fiber-reinforced polymer and concrete. The company in charge used this thing to conduct tests in line with Tesla's theory, but a little altered. They were using low-frequency radio waves being transferred by the tower to transfer electricity over long distances.
You can't pack sufficient energy in your radio wave to do anything we need to do mechanically.
Essentially, they are using radio waves instead of the Earth's electric charge to transfer energy. An interesting idea for sure, but one fated for the scrap pile like the others that came before it. The company in charge of the tower, Viziv Technologies, went bankrupt, and the whole project was abandoned. Quite an unceremonious end to this part of Tesla's legacy. Now you may be wondering what happened to the original. Well, the original Wardenclyffe Tower did not survive for a long time after Tesla had to abandon it. Tesla was drowning in debt, and the people he owed money to wanted to take everything they could to recoup their losses. First, the Wardenclyffe Tower facility was vandalized by unknown individuals. Next, the tower was demolished for scrap. They took out the metal dome and other components they could. Then they strapped dynamite to the giant structure and blew its base apart. The tower didn't fall, though. It came to a leaning position and stayed that way for a while until it was completely demolished.
The wounded tower, still standing in fragments, would require several more attempts to finally bring it down.
The work of a genius was gone just like that within his lifetime. The brick structure that housed Tesla's lab still stands to this date. The place was designated as a historic site and restored somewhat to how it looked during its glory days. But the absence of the tower has remained a missing piece. Tesla's genius may have gone unappreciated in many ways, and the story of the Wardenclyffe Tower is an important example of that. But that doesn't mean it will remain the same forever. His pioneering ideas are resurfacing one by one in modern days, with the world realizing how far ahead Tesla was for his time. And the wireless electricity transfer over long distances is one of those ideas that keeps on coming back. It is likely that we will see advancements on this theory in the coming future as someone once again takes up the torch and tries to bring Tesla's dream come true. And if that is done in combination with green energy, we could very well see a day when electricity is free, requires no wires, and is readily accessible no matter where you are on the planet. If you found this video interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.